My name's Bears Rebecca Fonte. I'm the writer, director, and editor of How Far Does the Dark Go?
Bears, Rebecca, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun checking out How Far Does the Dark Go. Tell me how you came up with the idea for this, how all of this came together.
Sure. So I spent a number of years running a film festival in Austin, Texas, called Other Worlds, and it was specialized in science fiction and horror. And one year, which was, the first year of COVID, we had a short film that came through that was about a vampire couple who had a small child, and they were arguing about whether or not that they were going to turn that child into a vampire. And I developed a friendship with the woman who had that short and who played the vampire. And it turned out that she had interest in making that into a feature. And so as our conversation continued, she sort of gave the story over to me, and it evolved into becoming a much more of a supernatural romance. And one of the biggest changes that we made was like the child became much older child who hadn't turned into a vampire. So he's, in his 60s and looks about twice the age of his mother. And that was really fun. And from there, then, we just kept working on it and went into shooting it in 2022.
Well, I like I said, I had a lot of fun enjoying this and watching it. What were some of the most challenging parts about bringing this to life?
The tone is a big part of this film. I think vampire movies are always sort of slaves to whatever kind of genre you want to be in and what you want the tone to be. And for this one, I really wanted it to be fun. I wanted people to have a good time, and I wanted it to be sexy. I wanted it to be a story that had a lot of love in it, but it's really comes as a hand-me-down sort of from the vamploitation films of the 70s. And what would those films look like if they were being done today by a queer female director? And so I wanted to sort of expand upon that feel. So it really does have that sort of Technicolor explosion feel of the 70s, but with an art house edge of today's indie film scene.
I love that. Well, I definitely think you nailed some of the steamier parts of it, because I was watching it, and it was like I was messaging my wife, and I was like, this has got some stuff here. Like, this is really fun.
Well, I made it for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's not enough love in queer film, and so many stories are stories about how hard it is to live in this world, and it is hard to live in this world, especially right now. But like, it's hard all the time if you're living with a vampire. And so I just kind of wanted to get down to the basics and be like, well, what is the story like if it's two women and they're living together, and there's got a little Stockholm syndrome going on, and it was really fun to play in that sandbox for a while.
That. And it's interesting too, because like you were talking about wanting the film to feel kind of like a 70s like art house vibe to it. That one of my questions was going to be like, explain some of the editing choices. Like, I know as we get towards the end of the film, there's kind of the film burnout that happens, and I was like, well, is my copy okay? Is this all right? Yeah. So.
Well, I grew up on watching these films from the video store, where you would get a copy that had been watched like 300 times, and inevitably you would get to something that like didn't quite work, or especially if it was the sex scene, that's the scene that people would watch and rewatch, so it would be a little less clear than the other scenes. So I wanted to get a little bit of that, and even more so when you were in the 70s and these films were going around on 35 millimeter canisters and being traded from theater to theater, and sometimes sitting on a shelf for a while and degrading and being loaded by people who don't really know what they're doing. So I really wanted to get that feel of what it might be like to sit in a movie theater and watch those.
And as somebody that's had to I had a job for 2 days at a movie theater where I was a projectionist, and again, it lasted all of 2 days. So yeah, that tracks for the film feel. Now, one of the things that I liked about this story is at the end of it, I was really feeling like there definitely could be more to this story. I feel like there's more that you could tell for this world. But honestly, like I as much as I enjoyed the main characters, I'm like, can I get more of Tempest's backstory of what that girl's been doing this whole time?
I love that you say that because, in my mind, like if this is a super big hit and someone's like, well, make a sequel. I want to make a prequel. I want to make the prequel of Tempest seducing Evienne, back in the 1870s, whenever that happened in London, and to have that experience because Tempest has been a vampire for a very long time. So yeah, we had a very elaborate storyline that we worked through, the actress and I who played Tempest, and also Evienne, and just so we understood where everybody came from. I think that when you do a vampire film, so much of it is about world building. You have to know what the rules are for your vampires. You have to know sort of what is the rest of the world like. Does the world know vampires exist? Have they always known? And that sort of thing. And that is really fun.
I love that. What is the one thing you want people to kind of take away from seeing this movie?
I think love is hard. I think that's like I mean, one of the things is that idea of when you're with somebody and you have that first flush of like, this is really great. You're willing to overlook any of the difficulties that might be associated with that person. And I think the message of the film is like, maybe don't overlook every difficulty, because maybe when it gets down to it, the person who is a vampire is actually a vampire. I mean, there's a lot of humans who are, essentially vampires, emotional vampires anyway, and I think, yeah, you could be aware of that.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, let people know where they can check out How Far Does the Dark Go?
So we're premiering at the Queer Screams Film Festival in Portland on August 2nd. That's the world premiere, and hopefully we'll be playing at film festivals all around the country and the globe for the next year. And then, yeah, I hope we make it on to streaming. This is a film that's going to live and die by an audience love for it. So thank you for helping get the word out.
Absolutely. Well, Bears, Rebecca, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. You guys, you're going to want to check this one out. It's a ton of fun. Have a good time. Enjoy it. And also keep an eye out for all the red flags out there. Be safe, everybody.
Thank you, Raylan.
Absolutely. This has been Ray. We'll catch you guys next time. Houston Film Fanatics. We'll see you real soon. Thank you.
Thank you.